The consequences of Brexit have often been obscured, first by the pandemic and now by the Ukraine war. But more and more, the consequences are now becoming visible. And so today, I would like to address some more of them. British queuing discipline is occasionally put to the test at EU airports. A consequence of Brexit, which annoys some tourists in the Kingdom of Spain, as recently happened in Malaga. Tourism is slowly picking up speed again, the number of passengers is increasing, and the length of the queues for check in is growing with them. The corona measures, which have almost completely disappeared in many countries, have led to a real rush to holiday destinations. There in Spain, for example, over the Easter weekend and due to a lack of staff, there were quite chaotic scenes. In Madrid alone, 3,000 passengers are said to have missed their flight. The British are particularly affected by the chaos as they see themselves as a disadvantage compared to the Irish, for example. For example, British tourists recently accused Malaga Airport of preferential treatment for Irish people, saying that they were able to enjoy express lanes while they had to wait hours for clearance by the immigration authorities. Yeah, Brexit. Many vented their frustration on Twitter. For example, what a joke! A huge line for UK passengers. It stretches all the way back to the duty free exit, while the EU line is practically empty. Others called the passport controlled queues ridiculous. Of course, the unequal treatment is not arbitrary discrimination against the British, but a consequence of Brexit. As is well known, the Kingdom no longer enjoys the privilege of moving freely within the Schengen area since Brexit. The president of the Association of Spanish Airports, Javier Candara, acknowledged problems that such high season scenes should be avoided. He calls on the authorities to make more police available, especially to deal with Britons. In addition, the number of first year students from EU countries at the renowned British University of Oxford has halved after Brexit. 4 years ago, the proportion of EU students was 8%. This academic year, it was only 4%, according to figures published by the university on Wednesday. Only 128 students from EU countries started their studies in Oxford. Deputy Principal Louise Richardson said the drop, while expected because of higher fees European students have been paying in the UK since Brexit, has been very drastic. At the same time, applications from China increased, especially in the past 2 years. According to the statistics, China was the country with the most applicants for a place at Oxford University, followed by Great Britain. Since the UK left the EU citizens have required visas to live, work, or study in the UK because freedom of movement has ended, just what they wanted. And there is also new information on the situation of British immigrants in the EU, not only the tourists. The first major study since Brexit of British citizens living in the EU has revealed its profound impact on their lives, with many raising serious concerns about their loss of freedom of movement and the right to vote, and a very different perception of Britain. The poll of 1,328 British nationals across the continent showed that if the public narrative suggests that Brexit is done and dusted, it has profoundly changed the lives of British citizens in the EU and in the EEA, according to the co-study leader Michaela Benson. Brexit is evident in its lasting impact on both the way they live their lives and its enduring impact on their sense of identity and belonging. The survey, conducted between December 2021 and January 2022, a year after the end of the Brexit transition period and part of a wider project by Lancaster and Birmingham universities, found that 59% of respondents had spent at least 5 years in their country of residence and they lived there and most intended to stay. But many were upset at the loss of their freedom of movement, which means they can no longer move to work within the EU or retire to another EU country, and were particularly worried about being left with no more chances in the future, and the chance that British family members that can return to the UK or from the UK, they cannot come. When asked if their past or future migration plans had been affected by Brexit, 27% of respondents said it had had a major impact, and 14% had a major impact. Where do you even start? Was the reply of a British citizen in Belgium. Loss of rights like freedom of movement within the EU and into the UK. With a woman who is an EU citizen, I had to decide whether to move to the relevant EU country or stay in the UK. The family cannot return to the UK at the moment like this. And another said, I moved to France in 2020 to protect my right to live and work in France after Brexit. My migration is 100% a consequence of Brexit. Brexit and the UK government's handling of the COVID pandemic had had a major impact on the feelings of 80% of respondents towards the UK, with responses including deep shame, disappointment, a shitty show, embarrassed to be British, shambolic, and like watching a house on fire. Just over 30% still felt very or extremely emotionally attached to the UK, compared with 75% who said they felt very or extremely emotionally attached to the EU, and 59% who felt the same about their country of residence. For me, one of the most interesting things that the survey reveals is the sense of disappointment, shame, and fear about Brexit and the pandemic, and really quite a strong expression of European identity, said Benson. Around two-thirds had changed their legal status and acquired residence or citizenship since 2016. But almost half did not have the same status and thus the same migration and settlement rights as some or all of their close family members. This was a major or significant concern for a large majority of respondents who indicated that it would affect their own work, career, and education, and those of their children, or would do so in the future. My wife is a Russian citizen, said one respondent in Italy. Her right to live and work depends on my status under the withdrawal agreement. She fears a possible move to another EU country as her residency rights are entirely dependent on mine, and he can't just move to another EU country that easily. Those who felt they wanted or needed to return to Britain at some point felt particularly concerned as non-British partners and other family members coming with them would now be subject to British immigration checks. I have a house in England, said one respondent who has lived in the Netherlands for 10 years, and he said, I wanted to retire there. It's now sold. My wife is Dutch. I don't think she could move back to the UK, despite co-owning a house, having lived there for 15 years, speaking fluent English, and having 2 children with dual nationality. And the loss of EU voting rights was also a major concern, with 46% saying they could no longer vote in European or in most cases in local elections in their country of residence. Around 42% were also unable to vote in the UK because they had lived abroad for more than 15 years, although this is expected to change. And yeah, some people are always talking about the European elections or the elections for the European Parliament, but it's also affecting people in the local elections. When I was standing for my seat again in 2020, all EU members, EU citizens living here in my hometown for more than 3 months before the election were eligible to vote in the local elections and were able to vote for me, for example. And that is not the case for British people who have a residency right because of the withdrawal agreement, but they are no EU citizens anymore. And our election law states that EU citizens living here have the right to vote in the local elections, but only EU citizens. And so British people, there are still a lot of British people here, but all of them are not allowed to vote anymore. And I never understood the thing with the British law. When you live there for that or that long, you're not allowed to vote anymore. Well, from my understanding, if you have a British passport, you have to be allowed to vote. If I have a German passport, I expect to be allowed to vote in Germany. And I'll see you in my next video. Bis gleich.